A little bit of your time to speak on the Bhagavad Gita. I opened this book, the markers, at a very suitable verse, I think, often quoted, from the second chapter, contents of the Gita summarized, text number 44, which reads, Bhogaishvarya prashaktanam taya paritta chetasam vyavasayatmika buddhi samadona vidhyate. So let's learn what this means. Please repeat after me. Bhoga,
Bhoga,
to material enjoyment.
to material enjoyment.
Aishwarya,
Aishwarya,
and opulence.
and opulence.
Prasaktanam,
Satanam,
for those who are attached.
for those who are attached.
Taya,
Taya,
by such things.
by such things.
Apahritta chetasam,
Aparita chetasam,
bewildered in mind.
bewildered in mind.
Vyavasayatmika,
Vyasasmika,
fixed in determination.
fixed in determination.
Buddhi,
Buddhi,
devotional service to the Lord.
devotional service to the Lord.
Samadhau,
Samadho,
in the controlled mind.
in the controlled mind.
Na,
Na,
never.
never.
Vidhyate,
Vidyate,
does take place.
does take place.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. In the minds of those who are too much attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, and who are bewildered by such things, a resolute determination for devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place. Purport. Samadhi means fixed mind. The Vedic dictionary, the Nirukti, says, Samyag adhyate asmin atma tattva yathatmyam. When the mind is fixed for understanding the self, it is said to be in samadhi. Samadhi is never possible for persons interested in material sense enjoyment, nor for those who are bewildered by such temporary things. They are more or less condemned by the process of material energy. Once more, this verse reads, Bhogashvara prasaktanam taya prahita chetasam vyavasatmaka buddhi samadhavna vidhyate. We can repeat this translation together. In the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination for devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place. Ukam kroti bachalam mangalangai tegirim ekripitanam mande Shri Guru Nidatarnam Paramananda Margam. So, there's two opposite terms in this verse. Apahrita chetasam and vyavasayatmika. Apahrita chetasam means to be bewildered in the mind. Now, the mind, what is the mind? I've been giving a seminar in Auckland about the Vedic explanation of psychology. And when we look carefully at Srila Prabhupada's books, his purports, we find that the mind, basically, in essence, simply means consciousness. Consciousness is the energy of the soul. But consciousness can flow two ways. Towards Krishna, away from Krishna. As we see in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishna bahirmukha bhoga vanchakari nikata stamaya japatiyadhari. So, bahirmukh. If you're coming from India, you can practically understand the meaning of this word. Bahir means outward. You see, Sri Krishna, Srimati Radharani, their pastimes, that belongs to the Antaranga Shakti. Antara means inward. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada, he used this phrase, internal potency, internal energy. So the Sanskrit, technical Sanskrit term is Antaranga Shakti. So this is internal. And what is the material energy? It is called Bahiranga. Srila Prabhupada always said external energy. So Bahirmukh. Mukha means what? Face. Bahir means outward. So when the face of the living entity turns away from the Lord to take in this Bahiranga Shakti, this external material energy, Krishna Bahirmukhahan. Why? First of all, why does a living entity turn away from Krishna? Bhoga vanchakari, because he wants to gratify his senses. And why does he want to gratify his senses? This is called in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Viparyo Smriti. Viparyo means reversed. Smriti means, of course, remembrance or intelligence. Well, when that remembrance of Krishna, proper remembrance of Krishna becomes reversed, what does that mean? So proper remembrance of Krishna is that I am the Lord's eternal servant. As Jiva Goswami writes, Parama Purusha Sukha Matra Sva Sukhatvam. That for the devotee there is only one happiness. And that is what? That is Krishna's happiness. You see? This is a pure devotee. I think a very neat, straightforward, simple understanding that a pure devotee's happiness is to see the smiling face of the Lord and see the Lord's happiness ever increasing. Therefore, the pure devotee is always trying to contribute to the Lord's happiness through loving devotional service. So, devotee's happiness is the happiness of the Lord. That's all. This is why Jiva Goswami says in his Priti Sandarbha that prema bhakti goes beyond any liberation. You see, typically there's this Chaturvarg. This is known in the ordinary course of the Vedic process. It is known in Hinduism also, which is based on this ordinary Vedic process of religion. Dharma, Artha, Kam, Moksha. Moksha is the highest. But Prema Bhakti leaves Moksha behind. From the point of view of the Prema Bhakti, Moksha is just the uppermost floor in the house of materialism. How can we say that liberation is materialism? Because it is still self-interested. One is thinking of saving oneself. Salvation. What about Krishna? You see, you're looking to Krishna, save me. You want Krishna to do something for you. There's not necessarily any plan to do anything for Krishna. So, Prema Bhakta, the Prema Bhakta is one who takes any pain to satisfy Krishna. No consideration for himself. He's not interested in his own position. That beautiful story Srila Prabhupada used to narrate of the gopis. When Narada Muni went to visit Lord Krishna, Krishna was in the lila of having a headache. So Krishna was sitting like this. Oh. And Narada said, "My dear Lord, what is the problem? What can I do?" "Narada ji, I have a headache. So tell me how this headache can be cured." "It can only be cured by the application of the dust of the lotus feet of my devotees." So Narada Muni he went off to collect such dust. He went to some brahmanas who were performing yagyas, but they refused. They were performing yagyas, they were chanting Vishnu Sahasranam and Purusha Shukta. These are Vedic hymns addressing Narayan, Krishna. So he thought, in this ritualistic way, you're serving the Lord, so please give the dust of your lotus feet, you brahmanas, and I'll take this and put this on Krishna's head. What? On Krishna's head? Never! Dust from our feet can't go on Krishna's head. If our foot dust goes on Krishna's head, then we'll go to hell. All these yagyas, all that we have been doing in our strict adherence to Brahminical culture will be smashed. So he left those brahmanas and went to some yogis who were engaged in severe austerities for perceiving Paramatma, another form of the Lord, in the heart. And he approached them and asked them for the dust of their feet, and they refused when they understood that it is to go on Krishna's head. We've been performing austerities, practicing yoga, mysticism, suspending our breath, pranayam, for so long, so that we can rise up to the platform of moksha, see Paramatma in the heart. And now you want the dust of our feet to go on Krishna's head? That will ruin everything. That will be aparad. Then he went to the gopis. And when the gopis heard that Krishna had a headache and the only thing that can cure it is the dust of the feet of his devotees. They immediately collected big, big potfuls of dust from their feet. All the gopis were shaking their feet and presenting this to Narada. Take this, put it on Krishna's head. And Narada said, well, I've talked to some others, brahmanas, yogis. They're afraid to give the dust of their feet because they think it's an offense for this dust of the servant's feet to go on the head of the master. They're afraid they will go to hell. They're afraid they'll lose their position that they've worked so hard to attain. They're afraid that they'll be lost to any chance of liberation. The gopis said, let us go to hell. Let us go to hell. Krishna has a headache. It must be cured. This is the prema bhakta. I'll go to hell, but if I can serve Krishna by going to hell, then let me do it. So, this is the proper relationship with Krishna. This is the real smriti, the real way to remember the Lord. This is the real understanding. So viparyo smriti, reverse, means I'm not Krishna's servant. Rather, I want to be Krishna myself. Rather, I want to be in a realm where I'm the center of everything. Where my activities, my life, will be the great drama. And I may go on in that situation believing in God. That's all right. But God will be an adjunct. You see, God will be there off on the side, in the wings, to help me. You see, I'll pray to Him. I'll do some puja for Him. And then He has to supply. You see. He has to supply me for my grand life here in this world. That kind of God I can believe. The one who's ready, snap, snap, when I call Him. Okay, we need more money. Economy's going down. So here's some incense. Here's some flowers. Okay, is that enough? Money. Chop, chop. You see, this is mundane religion. And of course, this is rubbing shoulders with atheism. So in the material world, we find mundane religionists who want to make God their order supplier, and we find atheists, open atheists, who say there's no need for God. Like Srila Prabhupada said in Russia, before the Bolshevik revolution, they were very, very pious, God-fearing people. So the Bolsheviks, the communists, of course, are atheists, and they wanted to change the attitude of the people. So they would come to the villages with a truckload, a lorry load of bread, poor villages. Actually, the communists had manipulated the economy so there was no bread in the villages. And they would come with a truckload of bread, covered up with canvas. And they would say to the people, they call all the people out and say, so, you don't have bread. No, we don't have bread. So, why don't you, here's your church, why don't you go to church and pray to God? That's what your Bible says. Give us this day our daily bread. So they would go there and pray, and of course nothing would happen. And the communists would say, your God is useless. You need bread, you pray, nothing happens. And then they would bring out a big picture of Lenin. Now pray to Lenin, Comrade Lenin. These simple people, they would get down on their knees and pray to Lenin. And then they pull the canvas off the back of the truck. There's your bread. And distribute it. And so then this way they're winning over village after village to communist philosophy. So this is what Srila Prabhupada said. This type of religion is not love of God, it is love of bread. You see? This is what one wants. Whether God or Lenin, you see, but give me my bread. And if I get my bread, I'm happy. I'll worship anyone, anything, if I can get bread. So Viparyo Smriti, you see, reversed intelligence. I am no longer servant of God. My life is no longer His. Rather, I am number one. I am center stage. The drama of my human life is all important. And if there is a God, He's there to supply me with what I need. You see. So this is childish conception. This is like, little children. Little children view their parents like that. Little children think they're the center of everything. And mother and father have no existence other than taking care of me. If they see that the mother, father want to go out together, you see sometimes mother, father like to go out in the evening and want to leave the children with a babysitter or something. They raise a big ruckus. Where are you going? You see? You are here for us, the children are saying. We're the center of everything. They make it hard for the parents to have a life of their own. So this is childish. The child cannot conceive of a parent as an independent individual with his own life. You see, child cannot conceive of it. So the same way with the mundane religionist. He cannot conceive of Krishna as Krishna really is. So, anyway, continuing. Krishna Bahirmokkahan Bhogavanchikari, because they're interested in sense gratification. Krishna is the supreme enjoyer. Of course, his enjoyment is not bhoga, materialistic sense gratification. But this is how, when one gets into this competitive mood, Viparya also means competitive. Rather than serve Krishna, I want to be Krishna. So when one adopts this competitive attitude, then materialistic sense gratification seems to him to be the way to establish himself as God, the supreme enjoyer. Nikatasta Maya Japatiyadari. And in this way he becomes seized by Maya. He doesn't achieve his freedom. He doesn't become independent. He doesn't become the center of creation. He becomes a little struggling mouse in the grip of Maya Devi. Kokta Nidra Mao Jaya Pisashit Yirakoli. Jeev Jago, go to Chandraboli. Kokta Nidra Jao Maya. My dear Jiva, Lord Gora Sundara is calling, you're sleeping in the lap of a witch, Pisachira, called Maya, and she's preparing to cut off your head. Wake up out of this ignorance. But this is what happens. So, the demarcation line between material life and spiritual life is this ahankara, false ego. When I think I'm the center of everything, I'm in mind. Then I come under the control of the material energy. And this is the state described here. Apahrita chetasam, bewildered in mind. Krishna describes in this Gita, the mind is chanchala, astira, restless, unsteady, always being provoked by the sense objects. The mind is plugged into the senses, and the senses are plugged into the sense objects. And the mind is always, this is called manaso vritti. The mind is always turning. Between the different perceptions of the senses, the different sense activities, the mind is also turning around itself too. The mind becomes just absorbed in its own speculations That's another vritti or material engagement of the mind. In this way, the mind is bewildered. In this way, although the mind is originally, as I said, means simply the consciousness, the shakti of the soul, now the mind is considered a material thing also. Because the mind has become clouded due to association with material nature. And cloudy means you cannot see clearly. With clear consciousness, the soul, Krishna, can be perceived. But when consciousness becomes cloudy, then there's only darkness. The darkness of this material world. So the mind, the material mind, drags the living entity deeper and deeper and deeper into what Prabhupada called the complexities of material existence. Always making plans. This is how Srila Prabhupada defines the mind in the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. That it simply wants to remain here in the material world. It's always making plans. This is the business of the restless, agitated mind. And this is all comes back to this false ego. Thinking of myself as being the center of everything. And the penalty is then, one does not get this vyavasayatmika buddhi, this fixed up, clear intelligence. That means, this vyavasayatmika buddhi here, it means to be established in one's identity as spirit soul. You know, there's this slang expression. I think it's all over the English world, but it's probably originally American. Where a foolish person is called a jerk. Rather unkind term. But it's a significant word. Because a jerk is someone who is, he may be able to, for a short time, present himself as somewhat together. You know, he's the kind of person who can put on nice clothes and, you know, comb his hair and look real bona fide, and then go to his job interview or go to some party to impress the girl, whatever, he has some plan. And then he always ends up doing a pratfall, falling on his face, making a fool of himself. This is a jerk. It means he tries to create a position for himself, but he's jerked out of it because he's just unfortunate. You see? So, this is the meaning. When we have in this apahrita chetasam, this bewildered state of consciousness, we try to establish ourselves here in the material world. I'm an important big fellow. I have my, you know, my family, my address, my bank balance, my job, this, that, but we're jerked out of that, inevitably. And whatever position we take for us, we'll be pulled out of it. This is, Prabhupada says, Maya has two potencies. She covers us and she drags us, jerks us, in other words. You see? So this vyavasatmika buddhi here means the life of a jerk has come to an end. He can't be jerked out of his position because he's situated in his true spiritual identity, which is transcendental to the modes of material nature. This means fixed consciousness, fixed at the lotus feet of Krishna. So this is the penalty. If we adopt this attitude that I'm the center of everything, that this life is basically, this world is basically here for me, and we can never attain this vyavasatmika buddhi. We'll always be in the grip of the material nature, always full of anxiety. When we were in giving the seminar, there was one gentleman, again and again, and he asked this question 5 times. He came. He was so, but if I surrender to Krishna, what about my job? What about, you know, the demands of society? couldn't shake this off. He kept every evening asking this question, slightly different words. You see? And what does this mean? This simply means agitated mind, disturbed mind. No peace. No peace. It's not an objective problem. It's not an objective problem. This is the ABCs of spiritual life. Even in the New Testament, Jesus Christ gives this Sermon on the Mount, where he's saying, consider the lilies of the field. Consider the birds. They're taken care of. They're not worried. Prabhupada used to say the exact same thing. He used to say, his analogy was ant and elephant. He said there's ant and there's elephant in God's nature. So the ant needs only a few grains of food. God's giving that. The elephant needs hundreds of kilos of food a day, and God is giving that. You see? So this is not an objective problem, but because our minds are so disturbed, we think surrender to Krishna, but what about? See? What we don't like is that surrender to Krishna means I'm giving up the number one position, which is not my position anyway, because I'm really just a jerk. I preen myself, I'm in number one position, but then the Maya's hook comes and, like the old vaudeville show. Vaudeville, back in the early part of the 20th century, they had these traveling shows that would appear on stage. This was even before cinema had become very popular. So the entertainment was live on theater stages. And they would sing and dance. And typically, if a performer was not very good, he's supposed to be a dancer, but if he's stumbling and tripping, then a big hook would come from backstage and pull him off, jerk him off the stage. So that's us, where we think we're on center stage, we're doing our big show. Then Maya's hook comes, and we're gone. So we're not actually number one. So Krishna is giving us the opportunity to voluntarily admit that and surrender to him. And if we don't do that, then Maya will force us to see that we're not number one. So, vyavasayatmika buddhi. The fixed determination. This is what's required to become Krishna conscious. To actually establish a relationship of genuine devotion to the Lord. You may have heard of the Alalanath temple. So in Orissa, about 14 miles from the great Jagannath Mandir at Puri, there is a village where there is a very old Vasudeva temple, which is known as, by the Bengalis call this deity Alalanath. Actually, the original name of this deity is Alwarnath. The Alwars are 12 great liberated devotees, Vaishnavas, of olden times who lived in South India. And they are celebrated, their glories are chanted to this very day by the Sri Sampradaya, the Vaishnava Sampradaya of Sripad Ramanujacharya. So the Brahmanas who worship this Alalanath deity are coming from that Sri Sampradaya. They're coming from South India originally. And this is a very old deity. And this deity was most beloved by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Lord Chaitanya stayed at Jagannath Puri, and he took darshan of Lord Jagannath every day. and he went into transcendental ecstasy, seeing the form of Lord Jagannath, who is Krishna but at Dwarka. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is, of course, at heart. He is Srimati Radharani, who wants to bring Krishna back to Vrindavan from Dwarka. This is the esoteric meaning of the Rath Yatra festival. So at the Garuda Stamba, where Lord Chaitanya would stand to take darshan of Lord Jagannath, of course, if you're not born as an Indian, then it's hard to see this because they're very skin conscious in that temple. But anyway, so I've been told that the Garuda Stamba, that column on which Garuda sits, you can still see to this day 3 finger marks of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which were melted into the stone. And his footprints are also melted into the stone floor, because his body would glow so intensely with transcendental ecstasy when he was taking darshan of Lord Jagannath, that even the stone would melt. But at Alalanath temple, you can see the whole body print of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the stone floor, where he fell down in ecstasy, and the impression of his head and arms and legs, whole body is there, melted into the stone. So it is said that this Alalanath deity gave Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu twice the transcendental ecstasy as he got from having darshan of Lord Jagannath. He would go to see Alalanath during the time of the Snan Yatra, when Lord Jagannath apparently catches cold after bathing, and then for 2 weeks no one can have darshan. Then Lord Chaitanya would go to Alalanath and stay there and take darshan of that deity. So the truth about the Alalanath deity is that he's in the form of Vasudev, 4-armed Narayan, but he's actually Krishna. There is a village in Rajabhumi, Rajadam, called Paita, and this is where Lord Krishna, he assumed the 4-armed form of Lord Narayan. The gopis were hunting for him, and he was hiding from the gopis. So he sat down underneath a tree and he assumed 4-armed form. And the gopis came rushing up, and they saw Lord Narayan. They don't think of Krishna as Narayan. Narayan is God. Krishna is not God for them. Krishna is the owner of their hearts. Krishna is their life and soul, their beloved. So when they saw this 4-armed form of Lord Krishna, thinking this is Narayan, they offered their pranams and they asked, "Where has Krishna gone? My dear Lord, please help us find Krishna." So he pointed, he went that way. And so they were all rushing. But then, coming up from behind was Srimati Radharani. She came there. And then Krishna was not able to maintain his extra 2 arms in the presence of her prema. So she drew Krishna back out of his guise as Narayan. So this is the actual tattva of this Alalanath deity. And because of this special relationship of Radharani to Alalanath deity, or this particular form of Krishna with 4 arms. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his ecstasy was double that when he would have darshan of Lord Jagannath. So as I said, this Alalanath deity is very old, and hundreds and hundreds of years ago, there was, still is, there's a village, and it was populated by South Indian Brahmanas, and the leader of the Brahmanas, his name was Sriniketan. And he was a very ritualistic type of Brahmana, doing all the pujas in very exacting, orderly fashion. But this village of Brahmanas, they were not able to maintain themselves simply by the donations of those who would come to have darshan of the Lalana deity. So sometimes Sriniketan had to go with all the grown-up Brahmana men and go to Puri and go elsewhere to collect, to take dakshin. And this would take them some days, and then they would return. So Sriniketan, he had a small son. The boy was only 5 years old. And he left him back when he went to go on this tour with the other Brahmanas. And he said, "You'll have to worship Lord Lalana while we're away. All you have to do is, your mother will prepare the plate. You just bring the plate in the presence of the deity, and you bow down and ring the bell, and you ask the Lord to please take the naivedya, it's called. The food that is being offered to the Lord is called naivedya. And then you wait for some minutes, and then you take, after the Lord has accepted the offering, then you bring the plate to your mother. That's all you have to do." So the little boy, his little son, heard these instructions, and very simply in his heart, "Yes, Father," he accepted. "I'll do this." So Father and all the senior Brahmins, all the grown-up Brahmins went away. So offering time came, mother had prepared the plate. So the little boy brought the plate before Lord Lalana and bowed down and rang the bell. And in his broken little boy language, he was asking the deity, "Please, take this. My father has asked me to offer this to you, so please accept this." And then he finished ringing the bell, and he looked up and he saw the plate, and all the food was there. All the naivedya was there. So he bowed down again. "My dear Lord, I ask you to take the foodstuffs that we're offering. Please take it. My father has ordered me to do this." Again he looked up. Everything was there. Again he bowed down and asked a third time. Still nothing happened. So then the little boy started to cry. He was broken-hearted, and he was just standing before the deity and crying. So it was so heartrending that Lord Lalana, he looked at the boy and said, "Why are you crying?" He spoke to the little boy. "Why are you crying?" And the boy said, "This is my duty to my father. I'm supposed to offer to you food, and you have to take it. You're not taking. My father will be very displeased." So the Lord said, "All right, if this will stop you crying, I'll take." And he ate everything. And the little boy was so happy. So he came running back to his mother with an empty plate. Mother asked, "Where's the prasada?" The boy said, "Oh, the Lord took everything." Mother was doubtful, but didn't know what to say. So this went on for a few days. Then Sriniketan returned. Father returned. And after being away, he was hoping to get a nice plate of prasadam. Would have been saved for him. But there was nothing. And he said to his wife, what happened? You have to ask your son. I don't know. You have him going in there making the offering. I don't know what happens. He goes in with full plate and comes out with empty plate. So then he did ask his son. And his son very simply, with big round eyes, said, Lord Ramnath is taking everything. Like you said, Father, I'm offering and he's taking. Father said, this cannot be so. No, it is. All right. So then Father said, ordered the wife, prepare another plate. And then he said to his son, now you take it in and you do whatever you did before. And the father hid himself within the columns of the temple and was watching. And he saw his little boy come in and put the plate down. On this plate there was a big bowl of sweet rice, just been cooked, so it was still very hot. The boy bowed down, rang the bell, was praying to the Lord, please take. And the father saw the deity reach down and pick up this bowl of sweet rice and lift it to his mouth. And the father jumped out and he grabbed the deity's hand. And because he grabbed the hand, then the sweet rice fell. A little bit of sweet rice spilled onto the body of the deity. And to this very day, those burn marks, there's 2 or 3 burn marks on the deity from the sweet rice. They're still there, can still be seen. So the father said, stop, to the deity. Lord Hemilton said, stop. Why are you telling me to stop? And the Brahmana said, you can't do this. What do you mean I can't do this? You're a statue. And the Lord said, I'm a statue. You're saying I'm a statue. No, I'm God, I'm Krishna, I'm the Lord. Well, even if you are, the Brahmana said, still you can't eat. You can't eat what we offer you, because if you do, what will we have? So then the deity looked at him and said, there's going to be a change around here. I want your son to be the head pujari, not you. And sure enough, there was a dramatic change. A catastrophe happened that emptied out that Brahmin village, and only the little boy was there, and he kept the worship going, and more new Brahmins came, and this way it went on. All the others had to leave. So this is a very nice narrative. It is a true narrative, and it illustrates just the theme of my talk. That for one who is thinking that he's the center of everything, then he cannot understand the deity. Even though he was the head pujari, the Brahmana, in charge of the worship, he was actually thinking that his own belly is the ultimate place where all the offerings should go. And it just, the Lord is just sort of on the way, on the way to the prasadam getting into my mouth and down to my belly. Yes, we put it before the Lord. And so because of this, he could not understand the true nature of the Archa Vigraha, the deity form of the Lord, that this is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, of course, in this phenomena, so to speak, of deity speaking to devotee, this is something actually that was very common in the Dwapara Yuga, which is the Yuga of Archana. The Yuga Dharma is deity worship in that age. So the deity would very often be known to speak to his devotees. But now it's Kali Yuga. The deity does not speak so much. Rarely, if at all. But we should not think that therefore the deity is somehow less than us. Actually, the deity, by appearing in this way, he is placing himself in our care. He's assuming this vigraha out of his great mercy. Because I was speaking about prema bhakti. So one with love of Krishna, he wants to do everything for Krishna. This is the mood of the pure devotee. Right? He doesn't want Krishna to do anything except enjoy himself. And all arrangements I will make. So this is the opportunity. The Lord is there on the altar. Yes, he's not moving. Why should he move? It is us who are supposed to dress him, bathe him, feed him, do all services. And by giving us that opportunity, then the Lord is inviting us to come into this internal realm of prema bhakti, loving devotional service. This is the real gift. This is the real benediction that the Lord wants to give us. Love of him. So, but again, if we go on thinking that I'm the center of everything, that ultimately temple, deity, everything is really an adjunct to my existence. It's just there to make my existence somehow better, my activities better, actually I'm the center of everything, then we'll never be able to understand who is Krishna, what is the deity, what is pure devotion to Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada, he said very clearly that if we become enthusiastic to serve the deity nicely, you see, just like Mother Yashoda, you see, Krishna is her child. And how did Krishna become her child? Because she's so enthusiastic to serve him. Srila Prabhupada said she has wonderful love of Godhead. So like a mother wants to do everything for the child. So the Lord is offering us that opportunity to do all services for him. But enthusiasm is required. Love is required. And that means we have to get out of this false self-centeredness. We have to let go of the false ego and take up the real ego, which is Nitya Krishna Das, the eternal servant of Krishna. So here, in the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, and who are bewildered by such things. This is why the Lord appears, to remove that bewilderment. This is why he comes as the deity. Because the deity is the Lord. The deity is is Bhagavan, the possessor of all opulences. And our service to the deity, our offerings to the deity, are to demonstrate that. We are to, Prabhupada insisted in ISKCON temples that the best of everything must be offered to the deity. You see? The deity is our Lord, the deity is our king, the deity is the owner. Prabhupada writes that every week the temple accounts are read to the deity in temples because the deity is the actual proprietor. So if we cultivate this consciousness, yes, then that is how we can be relieved of this false egotism, that I'm the center of everything. This is how we can become Krishna-centered in our lives. And when we are living in a Krishna-centered way, where I am Krishna's servant and all this energy is simply for Krishna's service, then that is already Vaikuntha. That is already Vaikuntha. This is why for a pure devotee, liberation is not... What is that? What is a big endeavor to become liberated? You just engage everything in Krishna's service. And that's Vaikuntha right there. You're already there. You see? Because for the Lord there is no difference between matter and spirit. For us there may be a big difference. Being under the blows of matter, but matter is just the Lord's energy. Just another one of His energies, meant for His service. So for Krishna there is no difference. If Krishna is here, then wherever Krishna is, that is Goloka Vrindavan, that is Vaikuntha, that is Ayodhya, you're worshipping Sita, Ram, Lakshman. So these dhams are here, and we can live in these dhams with the Lord. If we take up our true Swarup. Muktir hitvanyata rupam svarupena vivashtiti. Real mukti means to take up the activities of moksha, the activities of liberation, which are the activities of devotional service. Alright then, I'm going to stop here. We have a long way to go back. I thank you very much for your kind attention. Srila Prabhupada ki